The email arrived just after midnight, pinging the satellite modem in my tent pitch on the edge of the Bolivian salt flats. I found my masterpiece, Leo, and it isn't you. Attached was a photo. My wife, Isabel, clinking champagne glasses with a man half her age, his arm slung casually around her shoulder. Behind them, the Seattle skyline glittered from the balcony of our penthouse. A second email followed immediately. It was a screenshot of my brokerage account. A balance of $71.38, where a portfolio worth over $800,000 had been just a week ago. My name is Leo Vance. I'm 48, and for the last 2 decades, I've made my living as a conflict photojournalist. I've documented fallouts in failed states and humanitarian crises in places most people couldn't find on a map. My hands, callous from camera grips and years of clutching steering wheels on treacherous roads, didn't even tremble as I read the words. I sat on my cot, the thin air of the altiplano cold in my lungs, and typed a single reply to my sister in Chicago. Clara, activate Operation Darkroom. Then I powered down my laptop, zipped up my sleeping bag, and went to sleep. I still had a job to do. The guys on my crew knew something was wrong the next day. I'm usually the first one up, joking with our local guide, but I just drank my coffee black and silent, staring at the horizon. My fixer, Marco, clapped me on the shoulder. Bad news from home, my friend. The usual, I lied. Personal chaos stays off the job. You can't afford the distraction when you're 1,000 miles from the nearest embassy. For the next week, I worked. I shot the lithium miners, their faces etched with dust and determination. I captured the stark, otherworldly beauty of the salt flats under the Milky Way. But in the quiet moments, the memories replayed. I met Isabel 15 years ago at a gallery opening in New York. She was a curator, sharp and vibrant, with a laugh that could fill a room. I was 33, back from a long assignment in the Balkans, tired of sleeping in burnt-out buildings. She said she loved my eye for finding humanity in chaos. I loved that she represented a world of stability and beauty I craved. We married within a year. We built a life around my chaotic schedule, 2 months away, 3 weeks home. The money was incredible, especially after I sold the rights to my Siege of Aleppo collection. It allowed us to buy the penthouse in Seattle and for Isabel to quit the gallery and become a private art consultant. She managed the home front and our finances while I chased a story. It worked, or so I thought. The distance began to fray the edges of our marriage about 4 years ago. Our call became shorter. She complained about another missed anniversary or a gallery event she had to attend alone. Then she developed a new passion, contemporary Italian sculpture. And with it came a new friend, a charming art dealer named Julian who was supposedly mentoring her. Last year, I came home to find my office, where I kept my collection of vintage Leica cameras and decades of film negatives, had been reorganized. My prized possessions were crammed into a closet to make space for a massive, abstract metal sculpture. It's an investment, darling, Isabel had chirped. Julian got us an incredible price. 3 months ago, she'd asked for my power of attorney, claiming it would make it easier to manage a stock portfolio I'd inherited while I was incommunicado. Trusting my wife of 15 years, I signed the papers in front of a notary at the U.S. Embassy in Kinshasa. That was my gravest mistake. The satellite phone buzzed a week later. It was Clara. "Are you somewhere you can talk?" she asked, her voice all business. "Go ahead." It's worse than we thought, Leo. She didn't just drain the brokerage account. She sold your entire photography print collection through a private auction, forged your signature on the bill of sale. That money, plus the stock liquidation, totals about $1.2 million. It was all funneled into an LLC registered in the Cayman Islands under the name J. Moetti. Julian, the room felt like it was shrinking. The thin air suddenly felt thick, unbreathable. What else? I managed to ask. The penthouse. She listed it for sale 3 weeks ago with a commercial real estate firm, priced to sell fast. And Leo... Clara's voice dropped. I got into her email backups. She used your shared cloud account. There are drafts of documents. She was preparing to have you declared legally dead, citing your dangerous profession and your unfortunate disappearance on your current assignment. I sank onto the cot. It wasn't just a divorce. It was an erasure. A cold, calculated plan to remove me from my own life and take everything I had ever worked for. They have one-way, business-class tickets to Florence, Italy, Clara continued. They leave in 4 days. She cleaned out everything. Leo, the furniture, the art, even your father's watch from the safe deposit box. A cold fury settled over me, quiet and heavy. The grief was gone, replaced by a crystalline resolve. Is the other thing secure? I asked. Completely untouched, Clara confirmed. The darkroom is safe. She never knew it existed. The darkroom was our name for the anonymous crypto wallet and the small, unassuming tech startup in Estonia I'd invested in 8 years ago. After watching a colleague lose his life's work in a bitter divorce, I'd started quietly diverting a portion of my earnings, my danger pay, into a completely separate, legally firewalled entity managed by Clara, a forensic accountant who knew her way around international finance laws. All taxes paid, all above board, but utterly invisible to Isabel. It held over $3 million. Good, I said. Send everything you have to my lawyer. Tell him to prepare for Operation Long Exposure. I hung up, my mind already working, framing the coming encounter like I would frame a photograph, with patience, precision, and perfect timing. I landed at SeaTac Airport on a gray, drizzling Seattle afternoon, 24 hours before Isabel and Julian's flight. I didn't go to the penthouse. I went to a downtown hotel booked under a different name. My lawyer, a shrewd man named David Chen, met me there. She filed a restraining order against you yesterday, David said, handing me a stack of documents. Claims of emotional abuse, PTSD-fueled paranoia. Says she was afraid for her life and had to flee. I've been on another continent for 2 months, I said flatly. Exactly. Your assignment records, GPS data from your satellite phone, and passport stamps make this an open and shut case of perjury. We've already filed a motion to dismiss. He smiled grimly. But here's where it gets interesting. He slid a file across the table. It was a background check on Julian Moretti. His real name was Jacob Miller. He had a record of fraud in 3 different countries and was a person of interest in an art forgery ring being investigated by Interpol. He's not her partner, David said. He's her handler. He finds wealthy, vulnerable women and systematically drains their assets. Your wife wasn't his first. The final piece clicked into place. The betrayal was absolute. Isabel hadn't just left me for another man. She had allowed herself to become a pawn in a con artist game, and I was a target. So, what's our move? I asked. The trap is set, David said. I've already spoken with the U.S. Marshals and the Port of Seattle Police. They've been briefed on the fraud, the forgery, and the international warrant for Mr. Miller. They'll be waiting at the airport. All you have to do is show up. As David left, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Isabel, sent to my regular number. Leo, I know you must be angry, but this is for the best. I hope one day you'll understand. I've left some of your old negatives in a storage unit. I'll send the key. She was trying to create a paper trail of her kindness. The condescension was breathtaking. I didn't reply. The next morning, I stood near the International Departures Terminal, hidden behind a large pillar, a simple baseball cap pulled low over my eyes. I watched Isabel and Julian checking their luggage. They were laughing, giddy with their impending escape. Isabel was wearing a diamond necklace I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. Julian looked smug, his arm wrapped around her as they headed toward security. They cleared security and walked to their gate in the S-Concourse. They ordered mimosas at the terminal bar, toasting their new life. My new life, paid for with my money. I watched them for 10 minutes, my heart beating a slow, steady rhythm. There was no anger left, only a profound sense of finality. As they stood up to board, 2 uniformed Port of Seattle police officers and a man in a sharp suit approached them. Isabel Vance? Jacob Miller, the man in the suit asked. Their smiles vanished. There must be some mistake, Isabel said, her voice trembling slightly. We have a court order to serve you, the man said, handing her a thick envelope, along with a warrant for Mr. Miller's arrest on behalf of Interpol. Julian's face went white. He started to back away, but the officers were already on either side of him. That's when I stepped out from behind the pillar. Hello, Isabel. I said quietly. The look on her face was a photograph I'll never forget. A chaotic blend of shock, fear, and utter disbelief. Leo, you're not supposed to be here. My flight got in early. I said, you've been served. That's a temporary restraining order, a notice of asset freeze, and a criminal complaint for fraud and forgery. The penthouse is no longer for sale. The accounts are frozen. Everything you stole is being returned. Tears welled in her eyes. Leo, please, it wasn't like this. He made me... Save it. I interrupted, my voice devoid of emotion. You can tell your story to the judge. I looked at Julian, who was now in handcuffs, and you can tell yours to Interpol. As the officers led them away, Isabel screamed my name. I just turned and walked away without looking back. Some images are best left undeveloped. The court proceedings were a formality. Faced with irrefutable evidence of forgery, perjury, and conspiracy, Isabel took a plea deal. She was left with nothing but a criminal record and 5 years of probation. Julian was extradited to Italy to face charges. 6 months later, I was on the deck of a small cabin I owned in the Canadian Rockies, another asset Isabel never knew existed. The divorce was final. I'd sold the Seattle penthouse and its ghosts. My lawyer had recovered most of the money. I had officially retired from conflict journalism. The mountain air was clean and cold. My old Leica camera sat on the table next to a cup of coffee. My phone rang. It was an editor from National Geographic, offering me a long-term assignment documenting the shrinking glacier of Patagonia. Quiet, important, safe. I'll think about it, I said, and for the first time in a long time, I knew I had all the time in the world to decide. I picked up my camera, looked through the viewfinder at the vast, peaceful wilderness, and pressed the shutter. A new exposure, a new life, on my own terms.